was. I see midway up World Trade Center Tower, heavy black smoke coming out. Also, it seems like heavy damage to the upper portion of the building cave.
On September 11, 2001, 19 terrorists hijacked 4 commercial airliners with the intent to destroy symbolic targets of the United States. In New York, their target was the World Trade Center. The attacks began at 8:46 a.m. when American Airlines Flight 11 crashed into the North Tower. At 9:03, United Airlines Flight 175 barreled into the South Tower. While thousands of people tried to evacuate, the South Tower collapsed at 9:59. The event culminated less than 2 hours after it began, when at 10:28, the North Tower fell. 9/11 was the single largest loss of life from a foreign attack on American soil in our history. 2,977 lives were stolen that day, including 5 alumni from Seaford High School. Rob Sliwak, 42, John Perry, 38, Tommy Haskell, 37, Timmy Haskell, 34, Michael Wittenstein, 34. This is dedicated to their memory. Tommy graduated Seaford High School in 1982. While he was in high school, he participated mainly in football. He absolutely loved football. He was also involved in shave and track.
Tommy was a natural-born leader. Every sport that he participated in, he was a leader. And after he graduated or got too old to play the local sports teams, he went back as either an umpire, a referee, or a coach. He loved sports so much that he never wanted to stop. He always wanted to be involved in some way.
He was very intense. He definitely was all about doing the best he can and winning, which probably transferred well since he was the youngest battalion chief in department history on the fire department. He took everything he did very, very seriously, studying sports, especially football. Football was his absolute favorite sport, and he was a diehard Steelers fan. He wore number 85 because Jack Lambert was his favorite player, and Lambert was 58.
He also named his first car the Lambert Mobile after Jack Lambert.
Tommy was the oldest of 5 children, and he took that role very, very seriously. He was very serious. His personality was definitely serious, definitely intense.
He could get down on the floor and be goofy and play with his nieces and nephews and have tea parties with his daughters, which was quite a thrill for the big macho football player. So he had a fun side as well as a serious side.
I remember him as a really loving, really father figure, because I guess that's really the only one that I have besides all my uncles and my grandpa, but that was my main father figure. So I just remembered that's who taught me everything, how to kick a soccer ball, how to run, how to do this and that, and I just wish that he was there for a lot of other things. One of my biggest memories, my dad liked to go away a lot.
He loved to go on vacations with all the family. He would plan trips. We went to Hershey together in Disney. He loved to go on all the rides, and he was so excited when his daughter Megan finally was brave enough to go on Space Mountain with him.
The way that I want my dad remembered is that I want his qualities of bravery and a fun-loving family man. I want those to be in the traits of my husband and then have them passed down to my kids. I want someone who they can look up to and that's heroic and very loving and fun to be around.
There were 3 F's with Tommy: family, football, and the fire department. When I think about Tommy on 9/11, I always imagine him running into the building with a huge smile on his face because he knew it was going to be a big job, and just that he was so intense to get in there. And Not that he would have ever ran into a building like that smiling, but that's the way I like to think about it. That he knew what he was going to do was going to matter, and he just loved his job.
And being the natural leader that he was, it was every fireman's dream to catch the big one. And as a leader and responsible for his men and to find out where to go and what to do in a building like that was one of his goals of being an officer in the fire department.
On September 11th, my brother Tommy was the captain of Ladder 132, which is located in the Bedford-Stuyvesant section of Brooklyn. When the South Tower was struck by the second plane, his company was sent to Lower Manhattan to the World Trade Center. The fact that Tommy and his men and all the other people that were in that area were never found was because they were on the lower portion of the building, and they subsequently were just compressed in all the rubble and debris, and that particular part of the site happened to be where the most intense fires were also, so most of the people there were probably, their remains were probably cremated subsequently in the fires that had burned for weeks and months after that.
My favorite memories of Tom was our wedding, December 10th, 1988. We were 24. To those who got to love and know him, they got to see his goofy, playful side. At family parties at our home, he'd line up his children and nieces and nephews as bowling pins and try to knock them over with their gigantic inflatable ball. Americans will remember him as a fine firefighter, athlete, and 9/11 hero. To my daughters and I, he was our hero first.
The night of September 10th, 2001, my mom, sisters, and I said goodnight, we love you, to my dad over the phone. He was working a 24-hour shift at the firehouse. Who knew that would be the last time we heard his voice?
Timmy graduated in 1985. While he was in Seaford High School, he was on the wrestling team and the football team, the lacrosse team. Growing up in Seaford, Timmy was active in the Cub Scouts, the Little League, and the PAL soccer.
After graduation, he joined the Wantor Fire Department and volunteered for a while. And at 21, he became a Nassau County Sheriff until he went on the New York City Fire Department.
Timmy's personality was very, very fun, wild. He liked to do a lot of dangerous things. Yes, my mother, he was always in and out of the hospital with stitches and broken legs and broken arms. He loved being on the water. He loved Seaford because of that reason. He always had a boat and a water ski and liked to go tubing. He had motorcycles, quads. He liked to do a lot of different things.
He was also quite the animal lover. He had 2 Dalmatians when he went on the fire department, and he trained Blaze to do stop, drop, and roll.
And it was amazing to watch Timmy work with the dog, how Blaze responded to him. I mean, Timmy would look at her and say, "I smell smoke, what do you do?" And the dog crawled on her belly to the door and used her paws to touch the door. It was very amazing to watch him and Blaze interact like that. He would go running, or he would be on the bike, and Blaze would run right next to him without a leash, anything else.
Timmy was a very giving person. He loved to laugh and make people laugh.
One story that I always remember with Timmy is we lived across the canal, and at the time my kids were probably 4 and 2, and they'd be swimming in their little kiddie pool outside, and they'd be squealing and making a lot of noise. And Timmy would jump in the canal from my mother's with the dogs and swim over, and he would climb up the dock and jump in the kiddie pool with the kids.
He was into the extreme sports before they even coined that phrase. He was a thrill seeker, and that's part of what made him such a good fireman, because he doesn't hesitate to, go into a burning building or to rescue anybody. And between his wanting to help people and his love of thrills, being a fireman was the perfect job for him.
On the morning of September 11th, my brother Timmy was relieved, but because of the timing of the attack at 8:46, he was still in his firehouse. The reason 9/11 was so traumatic and impactful for the fire department is because our tours of duty started at 9 o'clock in the morning, so many of the guys who had been relieved from the previous night were still in the firehouse, including Timmy. Once he learned of the attack, Timmy and another firefighter who was relieved jumped in a second truck from their firehouse and raced down to the World Trade Center to try to hook up with the responding members of that company. Members of Squad 18, which was Timmy's company, was sent to the North Tower, as all the Manhattan companies were. All the Brooklyn companies were sent to the South Tower when the second plane hit.
Timmy was found with the members of his crew with their arms around the victims they were helping escort out of the building. I would want him to be remembered always smiling, always having fun. How people remember him is they just remember his personality as always somebody that you would want to be around because he was just so fun and, like my mom said, so giving.
Hi, I'm Susan Sliwak. I'm Rob Sliwak's wife. This is my son, Ryan. He was 7 and his birthday was 4 days after 9/11, turning 8. This is my daughter, Nikki, and she also has a twin brother, Kyle, who couldn't make it, and they were 3, turning 4 in November, right before 9/11. Rob was a graduate of the 1977 class, and in high school he played football and baseball. He was all-county his senior year, and he was co-captain of the 1976 championship team. To describe Rob, I guess, a very unassuming person. He never talked about himself. A good example of that is my father. We were all sports freaks, and he didn't know that Rob was an all-county player until after he passed away, and somebody was talking to him at the wake, and he was beside himself that he didn't know that. He was always known as a good guy, a great guy, always smiling. He would do things to help people, but you wouldn't even know that he did them. One of the examples was he went to St. Williams, and after 9/11, my sister-in-law got a phone call from this boy, from this man, who remembered when he was at St. Williams that he was being bullied in the bathroom. And Rob walked in at the time, and there was 2 kids that were hassling this other boy, and whatever he said and did, those boys left the bathroom, and that boy was safe. And Rob never really told anybody about it, and that boy, how many years later, called up my sister-in-law to make it a point to tell the story of what he did. You know, he wasn't the star student. He was a good student, but he wasn't a star student. But everybody wanted to be around him. He made everybody comfortable, and it was just the way he was. And in his yearbook, everybody wrote the same thing. You're such a good guy, you're such a good friend, you're always smiling. He was just comfortable in his own skin. Very simple, easy kind of going guy.
My dad was part of the 1976 Long Island championship football team. He was an all-county football player, and he wore number 34. And ever since he passed away, in every sport I play, I wear number 34 in his memory. Even though he didn't get to see me play, it was like it helped influence me to be successful.
He was a driving force.
Yeah.
He was truly a driving force for him.
Oh my God! He used to line me up against the wall, and he'd be like right here, and I'd be facing the wall, and he'd say go, and as I turned around, he'd throw a football right at my face. Yeah.
Like where Kyle is more of the running back. Like I think Kyle is what Rob was. And his sister came to a game against Garden City and said it was like watching Rob back out on the field. You were a team player, where Kyle, I think, was like Rob, where out there he would get the team going. Mm-hmm. He wears number 34. But even a silly mannerism for Kyle is he'd be standing out there and he had his hands. Rob used to stand like this. And Kyle would be out on the football field, and there would be his hands as he's listening to the coach in the same stands that I have tons of pictures of Rob standing. And he was like, he would cheer the team on. If somebody's having a bad game, he's right there. He was talking to him, and tons of mannerisms, just like his dad.
Okay.
Where I think for Ryan, these two are more of the finesse players, but they wear 34 and they want to step on the fields, and their whole point is to make Dad proud in every game. On 9/11, how I found out was I got a phone call from him. He told me that there was a loud explosion, that there was smoke already. And I was there in the 93 bombing and kind of just assumed the same thing. So I'm like, okay, just get out of there, get down the stairs and get out of there. And he worked for Cantor Fitzgerald. He was on the 105th floor. And then after I hung up with him, I turned on the TV and saw what had happened, and then kind of blanked a little bit. Apparently I screamed because the neighbors had heard it. And I rushed to get him to school because, I don't know, in my mind he needed to go to school. And I called Rob back when I got the phone bell probably 30 times and nobody was picking up the phones.
The traits I want my dad to be remembered by was just the fact that he loved life more than anything. And I mean, his big warm smile is one of the things I remember about him. And just the fact that he's gone, but every day he motivates me, my brother and sister, and my mom in one way, shape, or form.
When people hear the name Robert Sliwak, they think of how he was the guy to go to. He was the one that gave good advice, and he always had a smile on his face, and he was so caring, and he was the one that everyone wanted to be around. And of course he's in my everyday life now, and he motivates me. And like when I step on the field and my brothers and it's like we have an edge over everyone else because we're not just playing the game, we're playing for someone. We're playing for the guy sitting on the cloud watching over us.
Karen Wittenstein Hinson, and my brother Michael graduated in 1985 from Seaford High School. And one of my greatest memories of Michael is just how much fun he was all the time. He was always a happy camper. He always had nice things to say about people. He always had a smile on his face and was always ready to have fun and just a happy-go-lucky guy, really.
Michael was in the enrichment program, and Michael always wanted to be the general manager of the New York Mets, but unfortunately he didn't get a job there. But he did graduate, and then he went on to the University of Albany, and right from graduation he was very lucky because we knew someone that worked for Cantor Fitzgerald and got him a job.
They sent him to London for a year and to Los Angeles for a year. So he was basically on his way up with Cantor Fitzgerald.
He loved his nephew Jared, because the other ones really don't remember him too much, but we have 2 grandchildren named after Michael.
I was born September 15, 2003. I was named after my Uncle Michael.
One of my biggest regrets is that the kids don't really remember Michael as much as they should. And, you know, these other guys, they have kids, and there's something tangible to remember them by, and the single boys, there's nothing. Michael had such a great sense of humor that I remember after February 1993 when he walked down 104 flights of stairs. They gave Cantor employees a t-shirt that said, "I survived the 93 bombing at the World Trade Center." And Michael would lay on the couch and ask you to get him everything. He would, "Could you get me a glass of water? I almost died. Could you get me a napkin? I almost died." And I remember calling him on September 11th to remind him to call my brother Jeffrey because it was his birthday. And I remember thinking, oh boy, I wonder what kind of shirt he's going to get after this. We're never going to hear the end of it. And never got a chance to hear the end of it with him.
Michael was on the 104th floor, and he had called home. I wasn't home at the time, and he spoke to his father, and he said, did something happen? And Arnold said, yes, there was a plane went into the building. He says, okay. He says, I'm out of here, I love you, and bingo. We never heard from him again.
In fact, one of his clients from California said he was on the phone with Michael at the time it happened, a guy who worked for Countrywide Mortgage, and Michael got disconnected when the plane hit and called the guy back to tell him that he was sorry that the phone disconnected, but that he would call him back as soon as he could so that he could finish whatever trade this guy had. And this guy actually flew out from California to New York for Michael's service because he was just so touched that Michael would go out of his way to call back and apologize for being disconnected from him, and that he was so important to Michael as a client that just touched him. And he came out, never met him, just spoke to him that day and flew out for his service. And that was just the kind of guy Michael was.
I think we would like Michael to be remembered, and I think most of his friends remember as a happy-go-lucky, carefree guy who knew how to party, knew how to play, and knew how to work, and was intensely loyal to his friends. And that's, I think, how we best remember Michael in his memory.
My brother's John William Perry. He graduated Seaford High School in 1982. And from my recollection, he was involved in the Viking Voice. He ran track. He was in the Seaford chorus. I remember they went to the trip to Paris in 1982, I believe. He was also involved in the drama club. And that's all I really remember about him in high school. We didn't run in the same circles. My brother went to Stony Brook, and I went to Old Westbury. And then my brother went to NYU Law School. My brother was definitely into political science. He was a big influence on me. It was fun to sit and talk to him then. And that was the only time I was able to do that. I couldn't do that in high school because I wasn't really an academic in high school. And my brother was pretty smart, you know, he was book smart, but he was street smart too. But my brother also liked to act, you know. He was doing soap operas, you know, and of course he was in the languages. He liked Russian language, he liked Swedish, he liked Spanish, he took French in school. He used to work at One Police Plaza, you know, he worked at Central Park, he worked at Midtown Traffic, and his last post was the 4-0 in the Bronx. And on 9/11, I remember I was driving over the Frog's Neck Bridge, both the towers were on fire, and I thought that it would be a good idea to go by the precinct, which was near the courthouse, the 4-0, and go see my brother. And they told me that sergeant said that my brother was off that day. And I had a bad feeling right away. And by 2 in the morning, we still hadn't heard from my brother. And the story is that my brother and Captain Pearson, who I knew also was a captain over at the One Police Plaza, they had ran over there in the morning, and they were between both the towers assisting in the rescue effort. And Captain Pearson says that the tower fell, you know, the first tower, and Captain Pearson said he was standing right next to my brother. And Captain Pearson said the next thing he knew, it was completely dark and there was dust everywhere, and he saw a light and he followed the light out, and he never saw my brother again. So, 6 months later, they found my brother's body intact at the exact location that Captain Pearson said the body would be, and that was March 22nd of 2002. And we were able to have my brother's body cremated. And, you know, my brother was a big influence on me, you know. Shortly afterwards, my sister became an attorney. So, you know, we still might be a Perry and Perry partnership somewhere down the road, and we'll continue to work and do things that my brother would be proud of.
The Patriot Award was established to honor the memory of Tom, Tim, John, Rob, and Michael. This monetary award given to deserving seniors is not based on academics or talent, but rather the committee chooses individuals who display the characteristics that reflect the lives and spirit of our 5 lost alumni. We, the Seaford High School 9/11 Memorial Committee, encourage all graduating seniors to apply for this prestigious award.